Here's Brody Brazil.
Hey, welcome to this draft profile of none other than Connor Bedard. And I believe it was the Backstreet Boys who once said, I don't care who you are, where you're from, what you've got, you're going to draft Connor Bedard at number 1. Or was that in sync? I don't know. You understand my point. Whoever gets lucky, whoever gets that first ping pong ball in the draft lottery is going to take this young man from North Vancouver, BC. It's inevitable. We've seen this like a train on the tracks from 200 miles away. I mean, this draft class entirely is littered, but he has established himself as the number 1 pick, depending on whatever team it is, wherever they're at, whatever their needs are, it doesn't matter. Forward, D, no, like they're drafting Connor Bedard. At this point, you can't afford not to. It just makes way too much sense. So this is going to be kind of a draft preview centered towards the San Jose Sharks. I'll make those comments at the end, like if they are able to get this player, what does it mean for the franchise? That's still to come. But here's the background and the bio. His last team, the Regina Pats in the WHL, obviously had a phenomenal year there. Did so well in 2 World Junior tournaments, born July 17th, 2005, from North Van, BC. And I will say, I understand the geographical desire of Canucks fans to want to land somebody homegrown like this, and it doesn't seem like that's likely to ever work out, but I also understand the perspective there on Canucks fans. He's everything you want. He's a ready-made NHL player, 5'10", 185 pounds, a right shot, plays center, and I don't think there's any question about 2 things. Number 1, he will get drafted number 1 overall, but then there's the other thing. He will be on whatever team's that gets lucky. He'll be on whatever team's opening night roster to start the NHL season. And I have no doubts that he will play the entire next NHL season at that level. Right? So he's a ready-made NHL player. Fantilli, I think, might be the other one who potentially could be in that situation. Matvei Michkov is going to be in Russia, so more on him in a different video. And Leo Carlsson, who is highly projected as the 4th overall pick, potentially in the Fantilli conversation of maybe in the NHL next year, maybe starting up or maybe getting called up. But Connor Bedard is like literally opening night to game 82 of next season. In my mind, there's no question about it. Whoever takes him is going to be using him right away. I'm going to share with you some of the profile pieces done that I've come across that I wanted to share here in the video. First, from thehockeywriters.com. Connor Bedard is going to be a special player in the NHL sooner rather than later, and any team that lands the first overall pick this year is going to be absolutely ecstatic. He has such an incredible wrist shot that you could drop him in the NHL this year, like last season, and he'd feast. Bedard's wrist shot will be one of the absolute best shots in the NHL from the moment he arrives, at least top 5, they say, with the power and deception to make professional goalies tremble in their creases. Nothing like some trembling tendies. Nobody says that, but I just did. They also list at thehockeywriters.com some of his strengths and some of his things that are under construction. Strengths for Connor Bedard include that elite shot, incredible hands, being a deceptive playmaker, being an agile skater. I think that is so important and so underrated, especially at this younger age. He draws tons of attention, and obviously, he excels under pressure. And I really think that was the stage of the World Juniors. If he had a bad tournament, I still think he'd be in line to be picked number 1. He cemented his spot in that tournament, but I also think if he had a terrible tournament, maybe there's only some question of, well, is he number 1, 2, or 3? So the fact that he rose to that occasion, I think tells you something about the young individual. Under construction, the hockey writers would like him to grow 2 inches. And you know what? Look, all these young players are so underdeveloped when they get drafted. And their first few years, like always looking back at the video, they always fill out. But asking him to physically grow, is that even possible? Maybe it is. I don't know. They'd like him to be more consistent on the defensive side of the game. They'd also like him to continue adding strength to be a centerman in the NHL, right? So instead of coming up and being a center because you're always the best player on your team and in the game and in the league, at some point you'll need to take that next physical step, to win draws and to be a reliable every night center in the NHL. So it just sounds like filling out and growing. I mean, if those are critiques, like, he will do that. I don't think there's any question about that. Okay, and then there's this evaluation from The Athletic. They say this: he's got everything else you look for in a dynamic play creator, too. He's got unbelievably quick hands and the loose grip on the stick that all great handlers have. He's also got high-end speed with his galloping crossover strides and strong acceleration from a standstill, with continued work to do to take his first 2 steps up a notch and find an even quicker gear, which help him carry the puck up the ice or join in transition as the trailer whenever he has to play catch-up. He's also highly creative despite his goal-scoring tilt. Some scorers tunnel vision the net, and even though the goalie is his focus, there's a lot to his game between the offensive zone blue line and the shot he takes that's inventive, right? So he's a creative player from inside the offensive blue line to the eventual shot that he takes, which is inventive. That's a great word. He regularly makes difficult plays as a passer. I mean, what more can you say about the guy? That's a very detailed and nuanced way to describe Connor Bedard, but does paint a pretty nice picture of this young man right here. Okay, as for the Sharks' perspective of this, which I promised, I mean, if you draft him, number one, if you get the number 1 pick, right, on Monday, May 8th, and that is your fortune, this is going to be a franchise changer. You could argue that this would be bigger than the number 2 pick in 1997 that landed Patrick Marleau. Now, granted, Mr. Shark just had number 12 retired. I'm not saying that this is going to work out better than Patrick Marleau. Like, that was a legendary career. Let's hold our horses on that. I'm just saying the fortune that would bring a number 1 pick and the opportunity to land this individual, that would be probably the luckiest thing to ever happen to the San Jose Sharks. And there's like a 9% chance of this happening. So it exists. It's not significant, but I think the biggest misconception here is that you land him and the Sharks would instantly change next season. Let's be very clear. Whatever team drafts him already has a situation going on that's not great, right? They need to improve. They need to find a foundational piece. That's what he is. But like any home that you've ever lived in, the foundation is not the only thing. There's doors and walls and windows and a roof and electrical systems and plumbing. It's like you need to have all this stuff going on. He is a foundational piece. Maybe he is the entire foundation. I don't know. But you're going to need to build around him. Your work is not done the second you make that number 1 pick in this summer. So Connor Bedard would be a huge get for the San Jose Sharks, stating the obvious. Water's also wet, and the sky's also blue usually. I'm just passing that along. But this would be a big deal for the San Jose Sharks. Dare I say the luckiest thing to ever happen to them. Okay, thanks for checking out this video. More draft player profiles here on my channel. Thumbs up on the video since you watched all the way to the end, and don't forget to subscribe so I can see you next time.